The Bimini Road, Bahamas. Is it the remains of Atlantis? Or just really fancy beach rocks? Cue dramatic underwater footage with mysterious music. Hey there, mystery hunters and conspiracy enthusiasts. Welcome back to another episode of The Secret is Hidden, where we dive deep into the world's most mind-bending mysteries, literally. In today's case, don't forget to smash that like button if you enjoy getting your brain twisted into a pretzel by ancient enigmas. And hit subscribe because trust me, we're going places your history teacher definitely didn't want you to know about. Today we're talking about something that's been making waves, pun absolutely intended, in the mystery community for over 50 years. Picture this. You're chilling in the crystal clear waters of the Bahamas, probably sipping something with a tiny umbrella in it, when suddenly you stumble upon what looks like an ancient highway just sitting there on the ocean floor. Not your typical Tuesday, right? Well, that's exactly what happened in 1968 when a group of divers discovered what we now call the Bimini Road, a mysterious underwater formation that has scientists, archaeologists, and Atlantis enthusiasts duking it out in the most passive-aggressive academic battle of the century. Is it a natural geological formation? Is it the remnants of a lost civilization? Or is it just Mother Nature showing off her geometric skills? Buckle up because we're about to dive into one of the most controversial underwater mysteries of our time. The discovery that changed everything. Let's set the scene. It's September 2, 1968. Nixon's about to become president. The Beatles just released Hey Jude, and bell-bottom jeans are somehow considered fashionable. Three divers, Joseph Manson Valentine, Jacques Mayol, and Robert Angove, are doing what any reasonable person would do in the Bahamas, exploring the underwater world. They're diving in about 18 feet of water off the northwest coast of North Bimini when suddenly they come across what they described as a pavement of rounded stones. Now, I don't know about you, but when I'm underwater, I'm usually more concerned about not becoming fish food than examining potential ancient architecture. But these guys had their priorities straight. What they found was a linear feature running northeast to southwest that would later become known as the Bimini Road or Bimini Wall. Picture this, you're looking at massive limestone blocks, some measuring up to 13 feet across, arranged in what appears to be a deliberate pattern. The whole thing stretches for about half a mile and forms a distinctive J-shape with a pronounced hook at the southwest end. If you've ever tried to arrange rocks in your garden and failed miserably, you'll appreciate just how impressive this formation looks. But here's where it gets interesting, and by interesting, I mean conspiracy theory fuel for the next 5 decades. The blocks aren't just randomly scattered like your teenager's bedroom. They're arranged in what looks suspiciously like a road or wall, with some blocks showing what researchers describe as complementary edges. It's like nature decided to play Tetris, and honestly, nature seems way better at it than I am. The formation isn't alone either. There are 2 smaller parallel features lying closer to shore, measuring about 160 and 200 feet long respectively. It's like the main road has little side streets, which is either a remarkable coincidence or evidence that someone was really committed to their urban planning. Enter Edgar Cayce, the sleeping prophet's wild prediction. Now here's where our story takes a turn from interesting geological discovery to hold my beer. This is about to get weird. Meet Edgar Cayce, a guy from Kentucky who earned the nickname the Sleeping Prophet because he allegedly made predictions while asleep. And no, this isn't your average "I dreamed I'd fail my math test" kind of prediction. In 1938, that's 30 years before the Bimini Road was discovered, Cayce made a very specific prediction that would make even the most skeptical person raise an eyebrow. He said, and I quote, "A portion of the temples may yet be discovered under the slime of ages and seawater near Bimini. Expected in 68 or 69 inch 4. Let me just pause here for a second. This man predicted not only that something would be found near Bimini, but that it would happen in 68 or 69. The Bimini Road was discovered in, wait for it, 19684. I've seen people fail to predict what they're having for lunch. And this guy nailed a specific archaeological discovery 3 decades in advance. Either Cayce was the world's luckiest guesser, or he had some serious insider information from the universe. Cayce was convinced that Bimini was connected to Atlantis, the legendary lost city that philosopher Plato wrote about around 360 BCE. According to Cayce's predictions, Atlantis would rise again and Bimini would be part of that revelation. Now, I'm not saying the guy was necessarily right, but his timing was so spot on that it's either an incredible coincidence or the universe has a really twisted sense of humor. The man had built quite a reputation during the 1930s and 1940s for his readings, basically medical diagnoses and treatments he would prescribe while asleep. People would come to him with illnesses. He'd take a nap and somehow come up with treatments that actually worked. It's like having WebMD, but instead of convincing you that your headache is a rare tropical disease, it actually helps you get better. The Atlantis connection, when ancient philosophy meets modern mystery. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, or should I say, the sunken city in the ocean. Atlantis has been the subject of speculation, treasure hunts, and more documentaries than I can count since Plato first wrote about it. According to Plato, Atlantis was this incredibly advanced civilization that existed about 9,000 years before his time, which would put it around 9,600 BCE. Plato described Atlantis as being larger than Libya and Asia Minor combined, located beyond the Pillars of Hercules, what we now call the Strait of Gibraltar, and possessing technology that was way ahead of its time. Think of it as the ancient world's version of Silicon Valley, but with more togas and fewer overpriced coffee shops. The story goes that Atlantis became too powerful and greedy, so the gods decided to teach them a lesson by destroying the entire civilization in less than 2 days through earthquakes and floods. It's like divine urban renewal, but with 100% more catastrophic destruction. Now here's where the Bimini Road enthusiasts come in. They look at this underwater formation and think, hey, what if this isn't just a road? What if it's part of a harbor, a breakwater, or some other infrastructure from an advanced ancient civilization? The precision of the stone arrangement, the apparent tool marks some researchers claim to see, and the sheer scale of the formation all seem to point toward human construction rather than natural processes. Some researchers argue that the Bimini Road could be evidence of a highly advanced pre-Columbian civilization that was wiped out by natural disaster, much like Plato's description of Atlantis. The theory suggests that this civilization had mastered stonework and maritime engineering to a degree that allowed them to build substantial underwater infrastructure. But here's the thing about Atlantis theories. They're like potato chips. You can't have just one, and they're usually not that good for you. The Bahamas location theory is just one of many. Scholars have placed Atlantis everywhere from the Mediterranean Sea to Antarctica, and each theory seems to have just enough evidence to be intriguing and just enough holes to drive a submarine through. The buzzkill scientists enter the chat. Now, before we all pack our bags for Bimini and start planning our underwater archaeological expedition, let's hear from the party poopers, the scientists, because nothing ruins a good mystery quite like peer-reviewed research and radiocarbon dating. The scientific consensus on the Bimini Road is about as exciting as watching paint dry on a humid day. Most geologists who have studied the formation conclude that it's a natural phenomenon called Beachrock 13. Beachrock is exactly what it sounds like, rock that forms on beaches when carbonate sediments and shell fragments get cemented together in shallow water. The process goes something like this. First, you get a bunch of carbonate sediments, think crushed shells, coral bits, and other ocean debris, piling up in shallow water. Then fresh water from the land meets salt water from the ocean, creating the perfect chemical conditions for these sediments to cement together into solid rock. Over time, natural processes like erosion, tidal action, and weathering break this beach rock into the rectangular blocks we see today. It's like nature's version of a DIY project, except instead of ending up with a wonky bookshelf that tilts to one side, you get mysterious underwater formations that confuse future generations. The scientists point out that beach rock is actually pretty common in the Bahamas one, so finding it near Bimini isn't exactly shocking. In 1978, researchers from the University of Miami used radiocarbon dating to determine the age of the Bimini Road rocks. The results, the formation is approximately 2,000 years old. Now if you're keeping track, Plato claimed Atlantis existed about 9,000 years before his time, which would make it roughly 11,000 years old. This means the Bimini Road is about 9,000 years too young to be part of Atlantis. It's like showing up to a medieval feast with a smartphone. The timing just doesn't work out. But wait, there's more. Some researchers tried to challenge these findings with uranium-thorium dating in 1980, which suggested the rocks might be around 15,000 years old. That would be old enough to potentially connect to Atlantis. Right, well, not so fast. Other scientists pointed out that these samples were partially recrystallized, which basically means the dating method was about as reliable as asking a magic 8-ball. Plus, if the rocks really were 15,000 years old, the area where they were found would have been 90 to 95 meters above sea level at the time frame, which makes the whole underwater civilization theory a bit problematic. The plot thickens, evidence for human construction. But hold on, before we completely dismiss the human construction theory, let's look at some of the evidence that keeps the mystery alive. Because if there's one thing I've learned from years of investigating mysteries, it's that the scientists aren't always right. Remember when they thought the Earth was flat? Or when they said margarine was healthier than butter? Science has a way of evolving, sometimes in embarrassing ways. Some researchers who have studied the Bimini Road up close argue that the formation shows signs of deliberate construction that natural processes simply can't explain. They point to several features that seem suspiciously unnatural. The alignment. The blocks are arranged in remarkably straight lines that follow a specific northeast-southwest orientation, while natural fracturing can create straight edges. Having them all aligned in the same direction over such a long distance is unusual. The supporting stones, some researchers, including Dr. Greg Little's team, claim to have found a second layer of square-cut rocks beneath the main formation. If true, this would suggest a foundation structure, which is definitely not something you'd expect from natural beachrock formation. The precision. The blocks show what some describe as complementary edges, meaning they fit together like puzzle pieces, while erosion can round off corners. It typically doesn't create the kind of precise fitting that some researchers report seeing. The shape, the distinctive J shape of the formation, with its pronounced hook at the southwest end, seems deliberately designed. Natural formations tend to follow geological features like fault lines or shoreline patterns, but the Bimini Road's shape doesn't clearly match the local geology. Tool marks. Some researchers claim to see evidence of tool marks on the stones, though skeptics argue these could be the result of modern tourists and researchers chipping away at the rocks for souvenirs or samples. 10. Now, I'm not saying these arguments prove the Bimini Road was built by ancient astronauts or anything, but they do raise some interesting questions. The problem with natural explanations is that they sometimes require a lot of very specific conditions to line up perfectly, which can be just as unlikely as the alternative explanations, alternative theories. Because why stop at Atlantis? Of course, if you're going to have a mystery, you need multiple competing theories. It's like a scholarly version of a reality TV show, but with more footnotes and fewer roses. One of the more plausible alternative theories comes from author Gavin Menzies, who suggested that the Bimini Road might be the remains of a Chinese emergency dry dock from the 1400s. According to this theory, a Chinese imperial fleet exploring the Caribbean created the structure as a place to repair ships, since sea levels were about 6 feet lower 600 years ago. What's now underwater would have been on the shore of Bimini. This theory has some interesting merits. The Chinese were incredibly advanced seafarers during this period, and they had the engineering knowledge to create substantial maritime infrastructure. A dry dock would explain the structured nature of the formation while also accounting for its current underwater location due to rising sea levels. Plus, the timing works out much better than the Atlantis theory. There's also the possibility that the Bimini Road is connected to more recent but still historical indigenous civilizations. The Caribbean was home to several sophisticated cultures, including the Taino and Lucayan peoples, who were skilled in stonework and had extensive maritime trade networks. While we don't have direct evidence of large-scale construction projects by these groups in the Bimini area, it's not impossible that earlier or more advanced indigenous cultures might have created the formation. Some researchers have even suggested that the Bimini Road could be connected to other mysterious formations in the region. The Bahamas are home to several underwater anomalies, and some theorists propose that they're all part of a larger, connected ancient civilization that once thrived in the area when sea levels were lower. Modern investigations. High-tech meets ancient mystery. In recent years, modern technology has given us new ways to investigate the Bimini Road that weren't available when it was first discovered. Underwater archaeology has come a long way since 1968, and researchers now have access to sophisticated sonar mapping, underwater photography, and non-invasive sampling techniques. Several expeditions have used these modern tools to create detailed maps of the formation and analyze its composition without causing damage. The results have been, well, let's just say they haven't definitively settled the debate. Some studies support the natural formation theory, while others have found features that are harder to explain through purely geological processes. One of the challenges with investigating the Bimini Road is that it's become something of a tourist attraction over the years. The site is popular with scuba divers, and unfortunately some visitors have taken souvenirs or carved their own marks into the stone's tin. This means that distinguishing between ancient tool marks and modern damage has become increasingly difficult. The Bahamas government has recognized the cultural and tourism value of the site, listing it as a natural wonder and promoting it as a diving destination. While this has helped protect the formation from major damage, it also means that truly extensive scientific investigation requires careful coordination and permitting. Recent technological advances like ground-penetrating radar and underwater LiDAR scanning could potentially reveal subsurface structures or provide more detailed analysis of the formation's construction. However, these techniques require significant funding and international cooperation, which can be challenging for what many in the scientific community still consider a geological curiosity rather than an archaeological site. The tourism factor. When mystery meets marketing. Let's be honest here, the Bimini Road mystery has become big business. The Bahamas tourism industry has fully embraced the Atlantis connection, marketing the site as a must-see destination for anyone interested in ancient mysteries. You can take boat tours to the site, dive with certified guides, and even stay at resorts that specifically cater to underwater archaeology enthusiasts. This commercial aspect of the mystery creates an interesting dynamic. On one hand, tourism revenue helps fund research and conservation efforts. On the other hand, there's a financial incentive to keep the mystery alive regardless of what the science might eventually prove. Nobody's going to pay money to dive down and look at some perfectly normal beach rock that formed through completely understood geological processes. That doesn't exactly scream adventure and mystery. The Edgar Cayce Foundation, named after our sleepy prophet from earlier, has also played a role in promoting the Atlantis connection. They funded some research expeditions. Though critics point out that this creates a potential conflict of interest, it's hard to remain objective when your funding source has a vested interest in a particular outcome. This intersection of mystery tourism and research funding is pretty common in the world of archaeological anomalies. Think about places like Stonehenge, the Nazca Lines, or Easter Island. They all balance scientific investigation with tourism revenue and cultural significance. The challenge is maintaining scientific integrity while also respecting the economic and cultural importance these sites have for local communities. The great debate continues, science versus speculation. So where does this leave us? After more than 50 years of investigation, debate, and tourism, we still don't have a definitive answer about the Bimini Road's origins. The scientific consensus leans heavily toward natural formation, but there are enough anomalies and unanswered questions to keep the mystery alive. The reality is that proving a negative, demonstrating that something is not artificial, is incredibly difficult. Natural processes can create surprisingly regular and structured formations, but they can also leave behind evidence that looks suspiciously like human intervention. Meanwhile, proving that an underwater formation is artificial requires finding clear evidence of human construction techniques, tool marks, or associated artifacts that can't be explained by natural processes or modern interference. The age question remains a significant hurdle for any Atlantis connection. Even if we accept the more generous uranium-thorium dating that suggests a 15,000-year age, we're still dealing with a time period when most archaeologists believe human civilization was limited to small hunter-gatherer groups. The idea of a technologically advanced civilization capable of major construction projects during this period requires us to significantly revise our understanding of human development. But here's the thing about mysteries. Sometimes the most interesting part isn't finding the answer, but asking the questions. The Bimini Road has inspired decades of research, exploration, and scientific advancement. Whether it turns out to be natural beachrock or evidence of an ancient civilization, it has contributed to our understanding of underwater geology, archaeological techniques, and the history of human development in the Caribbean. What the experts are really saying. Let's take a moment to hear from some of the actual researchers who have studied this formation extensively. Dr. Eugene Shin, a marine geologist who has investigated the site multiple times, found no evidence of artificial construction or associated artifacts. 11. His team's analysis revealed that the stones showed no signs of being placed by humans and were consistent with natural beachrock formation. However, not all researchers are completely convinced by the natural explanation. Some point out that the formation's specific shape and orientation are unusual for typical beachrock, and the discovery of what appear to be supporting stones beneath the main structure raises questions about natural formation processes. Jacques Cousteau, the famous oceanographer, investigated the site in the 1960s and found nothing to indicate artificial construction. 10. However, his investigation was conducted with the technology available at the time, and some argue that modern techniques might reveal features that weren't detectable then. The ongoing debate highlights an important aspect of scientific investigation: the difference between no evidence of human construction and evidence of no human construction. The absence of clear proof doesn't necessarily prove the absence of human involvement, especially when dealing with structures that are thousands of years old and have been subjected to significant erosion and environmental changes. The bigger picture. Why this mystery matters. Whether the Bimini Road turns out to be natural or artificial, it represents something important about human curiosity and our relationship with the unknown. The fact that we're still debating its origins more than 50 years after its discovery shows how much we still don't know about our planet's history and the development of human civilization. The mystery also highlights the challenges of underwater archaeology and the importance of preserving these sites for future investigation. As technology advances, we may develop new techniques that can finally resolve questions that seem unanswerable today, but only if we protect these sites from damage and continue to approach them with scientific rigor rather than wishful thinking. There's also a broader lesson here about the nature of evidence and belief. The Bimini Road mystery persists partly because people want to believe in something extraordinary. The idea that there might be evidence of a lost civilization right there on the ocean floor is compelling in a way that natural geological formation simply isn't. This psychological aspect of mystery solving is fascinating in its own right. Humans seem to be naturally drawn to the idea that there are secrets waiting to be discovered, advanced ancient civilizations that we've forgotten about, and hidden knowledge that could change our understanding of history. These desires can sometimes lead us to see patterns and significance where none exist, but they also drive exploration, research, and scientific advancement. So what's the verdict after diving deep into the evidence, expert opinions, and various theories surrounding the Bimini Road? I have to say we still don't know for sure, and honestly that might be the best part about this mystery. The scientific evidence strongly suggests that the Bimini Road is a natural geological formation created by well-understood processes. The radiocarbon dating, geological analysis, and lack of associated artifacts all support this conclusion. The fact that similar beachrock formations exist throughout the Bahamas also suggests that there's nothing particularly unique about the Bimini site that would require an artificial explanation. However, the formation does have some unusual characteristics that are harder to explain through purely natural processes. The precise alignment, the distinctive J shape, the reports of supporting stones, and the apparent tool marks all raise questions that haven't been definitively answered. While none of these features proves human construction, they do suggest that our understanding of the formation's origin might not be complete. As for the Atlantis connection, well, let's just say that's a much bigger stretch. The timing doesn't work out, the location doesn't match Plato's description, and there's no evidence of the kind of advanced technology that Atlantis was supposed to possess. The fact that Edgar Cayce predicted the discovery is certainly interesting, but it's more likely to be an impressive coincidence than evidence of psychic abilities or ancient connections. The final word, for now, here's what I think we can say with confidence. The Bimini Road is a fascinating underwater formation that has sparked important scientific research and captured the public imagination for more than 5 decades. Whether it's natural or artificial, it represents a piece of our planet's history that we're still trying to understand. The mystery has driven advances in underwater archaeology, geological research, and dating techniques. It has brought tourism revenue to the Bahamas and inspired countless people to learn more about ancient history and marine science. In many ways, the questions the Bimini Road raises are just as valuable as any answers we might eventually find. And let's be honest, having an unsolved mystery is way more fun than having everything figured out. The Bimini Road gives us something to debate, investigate, and dream about. It reminds us that there are still unknown corners of our world waiting to be explored. So whether you're Team Ancient Civilization or Team Fancy Beach Rocks, I think we can all agree that the Bimini Road is pretty awesome. It's a reminder that our planet is full of surprises and that sometimes the best adventures are hiding just beneath the surface. What do you think? Are we looking at the remains of an ancient harbor, the handiwork of Chinese engineers, or just really impressive natural geology? Drop your theories in the comments below. I read every single one, and some of you have come up with ideas that are way more creative than anything I could think of. Don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed our deep dive into the Bimini Road mystery, and subscribe for more explorations into the world's most intriguing unsolved puzzles. Next week, we're investigating another underwater anomaly that's been making waves in the archaeological community, so you won't want to miss that. Until then, keep questioning everything. Stay curious, and remember, the best secrets are the ones that haven't been revealed yet. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Fade out with underwater footage of the Bimini Road and mysterious music. Video length, approximately 15 minutes when read at normal speaking pace. Word count, approximately 6,000 words. Remember to hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode of The Secret is Hidden. And check out our previous videos on other unexplained mysteries that'll keep you questioning reality.